the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
For some spring practice names to know. So we've now got 3 days of Tennessee spring practice in the books. As Joe alluded to here at the top, we had Tennessee Pro Day for Dante Thornton, Dylan Sampson, Pearce and company. A lot of Vols looking like they could be drafted here in the 2025 NFL draft. But Joe, one of my favorite parts of this time of year is diving into all the different deep dives, whether that's VolQuest, Go Vols 247, Rocky Top Insider, just reading different people's perspectives on who's starting out well, who's flashing a little bit here early on in spring practice. But who do you have like circled and you're like, all right, I'm going to keep up with this guy every day because I'm really curious about this room, this player, and how he does this spring.
Yeah, I try to stay up to date as much as I can on all the outlets. I've been seeing some funky stuff. I don't know, it was yesterday that Phil Fulmer was there, and
I think that's right.
Nico's got a GoPro on the head, so maybe we're actually getting some POV, film for him to look at. But I've been eyeing down that center position, obviously, with Mays heading to the league as the best, center, seeing if Satterwhite, fills in there and how they're able to fill those gaps. So I mean, that's probably 1-1 for me right now until we see the cornerback situation. Obviously, we spoke about, I guess it was the last episode we spoke about Ricky Gibson and how that old back's going to look. So obviously that's something you're looking for. But I know that Max Anderson and Gus Hill got some reps, and they're just, Satterwhite's I think your plug-in guy, but definitely curious to kind of see how that line holds up. Obviously, since you're replacing so much in that line already. With some added talent. So I also want to see how that works out and see those guys get some reps. But really seeing that O-line, form overall, but definitely that center position for sure.
Yeah, there's 4 new starters, but I think it's one of those good problems where I think Wendell Moy and Sam Pendleton will be good plug-and-play guards. Both have multiple years of eligibility, I believe. So these aren't even 1 year, just kind of mercenary-type transfers. They can solidify those 2 spots for the next couple of years. And with Andre Carrick moving on to the NFL, it forced Tennessee's hand to kind of have a real competition here at center this year. And it looks like Satterwhite's the leader in the class, but Max Anderson, same class, both 4-star kids. That's the kind of iron sharpens iron competition that I'm always intrigued by, because I don't know which way it's going to go. I think it seems to me that it's very open, that if Max has a great camp and a great summer, he can push and be ahead of William Satterwhite. I will say, though, Caleb, like when you look at this battle, I think this is the one that you want to establish. Like you want this one to win, or to end as quick as possible, because you want as many reps with the first team center as humanly possible with Nico before we get into the Syracuse game on August 30th. I think this is a position that you don't want bleeding into like a game week prep where you're like, I don't know, it's still pretty neck and neck with Satterwhite and Anderson. I feel like this is a position that you want one of these two guys over spring and summer, that like going into fall camp, it's like it feels like this is their job to lose, because I think if it's up in the air, that means this might be a little dicey here in terms of where things are headed at the center position. Is that fair?
I think it's entirely fair, and the center position more so than the rest of the offensive line, because we know in this offense this center does so much. He is. Not that they're not in other offenses, but especially this one, you saw the importance of Cooper Mays, and part of that is because Cooper Mays was so good. You felt him when he was missed. But, I think that's the case for whoever's out there. That is a critical part of this offensive line. So I think that's absolutely true, and I'm not necessarily leaning one way or the other. I don't like Satterwhite over Anderson necessarily. I haven't seen enough of them to know. For me, though, it just feels like, for talking about how can this coaching staff scout, grade, develop, I hope it's Satterwhite. Like, he seems like he's been the kind of guy in waiting that once Cooper Mays went, it just, based on playing time, based on the talks about him, it seems like he was the guy. And so I hope that means either number one, he's the guy, or Anderson is just that good now. Whoever ends up stepping up in that role. It feels like it's Satterwhite. I agree. You want to get that one nailed down, but I think that's really true for this entire offensive line. I don't know if it's going to be, who's going to be a guard. Is it going to be the 2 transfers and Wendell Moe and Sam Pendleton? Don't know. They came in as backups, which I kind of like about. Because doesn't it feel like at least one of those guys was probably like, "Hey, you're going to start coming." Surely,
Well,
you
it
got
might
at
just
least
be
one
like
of
an
those
early
guys
on,
that
like you got to
promise,
earn it, quote
which I
unquote,
love.
earn it.
I
Yeah,
love that. Hey, we're going to put you 2 on the depth chart. You're not going to run with the ones till you go earn it.
yeah.
In this age with all the promises, like if I'm a Tennessee, even if it's just for show, if I'm a player in that locker room, I respect that coaches bring them in and put them at the number 2 and make them earn it.
Yeah.
Whether it's just for show or not, I respect it. But yeah, I really feel like you want to see going into fall camp, you want to be pretty sure of your 5 guys. You want to know who they are. That doesn't, and again, unless it gets into, I don't see this team being a 10 deep, for example, or even 8 deep. I think you're going to have your 5 best guys are going to be your 5 best guys. I hope I'm wrong about that, just based on last year, how it played out. I think that's what it is. So I really think you want to know going into fall camp, these are your 5 guys.
I mean, I think there's a case that this is the deepest offensive line they've ever had, because you have Gage Ginther, who's also a year older. You have a lot of in-house talent that you've accumulated the last 2 years. You have some freshman talent coming in like Nick Moore from Jefferson County. You have Bennett Warren, who looks like he's making the leap. He was not an early enrollee, so he was kind of behind last year. He's a former 4-star tackle. Larry Johnson has gotten better and better in the system, and he looks like probably your primary left tackle swing guy. Jesse Perry is like that new Dane Davis type where he can just swing to multiple positions,
Right.
whether it's center, guard, or tackle. I don't know. I just feel pretty comfortable with all these different spots, and I think it's just going to play out fine. Like even if David Sanders, they don't give him the job right away at right tackle against Syracuse. I mean, I think they're gonna I think he's gonna be there sooner rather than later, and I don't think that's a big deal if he takes him a couple weeks to settle into the starter. I mean, I would still predict that David Sanders is the opening game starter against the Orangemen.
I think that goes into you kind of hope he is
right. And he looks like $1 million right now on the practice field, and I feel pretty good. I'm not really nervous about David Sanders or Lance Hurd or the tackles or really the guards. I need one of Anderson or Satterwhite to really run with this thing over the next couple of months and break through. And I'm fine with whoever it is. And then I think the best part of it, right, is Cooper Mays was started as a redshirt freshman, right? He's able to learn like Satterwhite and Anderson. Then you had a 4-year guy, and you saw how valuable it was to have someone who had been in the system for so many years and got to grow and learn for years under Heupel. Mm-hmm. If you get this right, you have the next 4-year starter at a critical position with potentially turnover at quarterback next year, and we'll see what that battle looks like. But if you can stabilize center this spring and summer and go into this year, and that guy just takes this job and runs with it, and it's just lives up to that recruiting star rating, then I think Tennessee's in a really good spot. So I'm really excited to see which way it goes either way.
And real quick, I do think you're right. This has potential to be the deepest Tennessee's offensive line has been under Heupel. Right now, though, I say that the potential, it's all based on ratings. And so did they get the scout going into that? What you're talking about with this coaching staff, like this is a crucial year for them because it's going to tell the tale a lot of who they are, what they are. So if they got the scouting right, if they've gotten the development right, it could be the deepest Tennessee's offensive line has been. Just a lot of unknowns. And I won't be the entire Debbie Downer like I am on more important issues, but the fact of the matter is you're not going to learn a ton in spring practice. You will know, but that's the thing is first week of fall camp, you'll start to get a better feel for what happened during spring. Because, I mean, we're not going to learn much getting to watch Philip Fulmer watch the offensive line, which the last time he watched the offensive line, we ended up with an NCAA violation. So maybe keep him away.
Well, I think we will learn. The one thing I'm pretty,
there, just showing him how to do it. He's a coach. He can't stay away.
I mean, I will say the one thing that we will learn is like with the spring portal opening up next month, if Tennessee adds a couple guys that were like, really, why did they add? It's like, oh, they saw something in spring practice where they were like, yeah, we're gonna have to add somebody. So I think the coaches are gonna learn something, and we'll learn what they think based on who they add in the portal in the spring window. Because if they add a position where you're like, really? That means certain guys they're like, I don't think this person's going to be able to help us this year. That is something that with the spring portal window is going to open up and be fascinating, right?
Oh, absolutely. Sure. I hate it though, but yeah.
I would get rid of the spring portal window.
It'd be great if it benefits Tennessee. I'm all in. But
it got rid of the
now,
spring game because everyone's so scared of showing who's on their roster and who the next intriguing guys. Like everyone's getting rid of. I mean, Tennessee now going off television and all this stuff. I'm just like, what are we doing? If you're just going off TV, like just cancel the game. If we're not going to do it, just keep it moving.
Also, I mean, Connor Stallions. I know he's a high school coach, but he can still afford a $10 ticket. Like he'll get in if he needs to.
Well, it's also just do. I just think you should do a scrimmage. Like, that's the coolest thing. Like, if you do closed door, do a real game, and then after you have real scuttlebutt where the media talk about it, like, hey, I heard so-and-so really went off. Do, like, a real scrimmage that with the young guys and see who's ahead of schedule, who's not, and then that'd be the thing. If you want to protect some guys and keep them out so they don't get banged up too much, but, like, do a real scrimmage. Like, that's what I would do, a closed door, real spring scrimmage. That'd be
closed door, media can attend. They can't take notes.
Yes.
It's all mental. They got to remember it.
It's like going to a Dave Chappelle show. You got to leave your phone at the door.
I want to hear Ryan Shumpert. I want to see how good his memory is.
Hey, don't underestimate Shump.
Oh, I believe in him.
It's Shump world. We're all just living in it, man.
Yeah. No, I trust him. I just want to know. It's one of those things, like, show everybody else.
There you go. It sounds like a challenge. Caleb's issuing a challenge to friend of the program, Ryan Shumpert. SEC tournament expectations, Joe. Can the Vols win it all like they did with Kennedy Chandler in 2022?
Yeah, I mean, why not, right? It's been a hell of a season. I feel like it's always been Landon and I have to host the show, but I feel like
nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.